Okay, here we are. You are live, it says on my screen. All right, we're live in the Awaken Live Facebook group.
Hello.
And Claire joins me today. She's in Prague, you said, wasn't it?
Yes.
So it seems every time we do these lives, Claire is somewhere different in the world. And she's back in Europe. And I don't think for long, no. I think she's going back to Colombia. And, this is why I thought I wanted to talk about purpose today. And I thought Claire would be a great person to talk to about this, because I know, we're all on our own journey towards what our purpose might be, why we're really here, how can we best serve others in this lifetime. And I feel like Claire is kind of honing in on that for herself, although, we just talked about before we went live just then about the fact that she's not 100% sure on what that might be. And same for me, if I'm honest. I mean, it changes all the time. And, no, just before I delve into this, because I know this could be a really sort of juicy subject. If you're watching live, give me a hashtag live. Let us know where you're coming in from. I know not as many people watch live because I can't stream into the group. There's me and Claire discovered on our last live. So I streamed to my profile and then put it in the replay in the group later. So most people watch on the replay now. So give me a hashtag replay. Let us know where you're coming in from. Let us know you're checking in. And, do you have an idea of what your own higher purpose might be? This is a journey I've been on, particularly over the last 5 years, going deep into refining what my own purpose is. And I think really as a collective, well, first of all, it's a real privilege to be able to ask that question, what is my higher purpose? So many people on the planet obviously don't have that opportunity. It really is a struggle for survival. So if we are asking that question, what is our higher purpose, then we are coming from a place of enormous privilege. And I think it's an amazing thing to be able to do, to look at, what is my purpose beyond merely surviving in human form. But I do feel like in, you could say first world countries, at least in the Western world, there is this collective question that's coming up, I think, at this time. Why are we here? I think that question's always been there for humanity, but, what is our higher purpose? How can we really make the most of this life? How can we really serve and help the planet and humanity as a whole while we're here? And it can, there's no wrong or right answer, just as long as it feels right for you. We and Claire can only talk about our own perspective here and what feels right for us, as always. But, I always ask the question in the group before I do these lives, and I ask, what's your higher purpose in this lifetime? And I ask this question from time to time, and I love getting the answers that people have around this. Usually there's some people on there who are quite honest and just say, I've got no idea, or I'd love help with this. But surprisingly few answers this time. And I wonder if that's because a lot of people just aren't sure or aren't willing to reveal what that might be for themselves. But, Tommy, who was on last week, said, help and inspire the underprivileged to live fulfilled and purposeful lives. So I know Tommy's done a lot of work on this, his own purpose himself. I've been on a similar journey to Tommy. So he's been able to refine it to that for himself. Another Claire said to help people to heal from whatever I'm learning to heal from, I believe. So I think that's quite a nice way to put it. We can essentially, and that's been similar to my journey, healing myself, focusing on my own healing and evolution, and then being able to help people who are perhaps, going through similar challenges that I've been able to heal from. My own purpose, which I put in there, helping to raise the collective consciousness by guiding humanity towards self-realization, which sounds very grand. It sounds very grandiose, but really, that doesn't mean that I'm helping the whole of humanity at this point. It's very much a case of the people that are drawn to me. If I can help them in any way, I will do. But as I always say, my own purpose, 90% of it is very much focused on me and my own healing and my own evolution. And that's, I believe, the best way I can help humanity. If there are people that are drawn to me that I can help as well, fantastic. But, for me, on my own journey, I've realized the importance of making myself central to my purpose. I always say, if your higher purpose doesn't involve you, then I think it's incomplete. There's a feeling that your higher purpose has to be your way of serving others. And I said to Claire before we went live today, I think there's a kind of, a lot of people create businesses, healing businesses, coaching businesses from that energy. It's like, I'm going to fix the world or help the world as a way of fixing or healing myself. So, but if you're doing that, it can lead to overwhelm and burnout for you, because if you're not putting yourself first, your own healing and kind of spiritual energetic hygiene first, that can be the tendency. We deplete ourselves at the expense of helping others. So I do feel like it's great if our higher purpose is to heal, inspire underprivileged people, or to heal other people in a certain way. But if we're not also including ourselves, then it's lacking. That's why I always say helping to raise a collective consciousness by guiding humanity towards self-realization. Humanity involves me. First and foremost, it involves me. But before I go deeper into that, Claire, where do you stand? Do you have an idea of your own higher purpose? Is it even important? Like Dan came on here a couple of weeks ago and said he doesn't feel it was that important to define your purpose. Isn't it enough to just say I'm a human, I'm a spiritual being living out an experience in human form? Is that enough of a purpose? But where do you stand on that, Claire?
Well, I love that question. I wouldn't have even thought about that. I do think it is important for me, although I do love that sort of when you think about it. Yeah, like it's true. Like our purpose is to just be here,
to be.
Embody divinity in human form. And I do believe that, like our only sort of role here, our only task, only thing to do is choose who we want to be, what we want to experience, and then create those experiences and experience ourselves as whatever we desire to experience ourselves. And then there's sort of, this, like, I do believe that we create our reality. We create the experiences we want to experience, feel, have, be, do. At the same time, though, I am hearing that a lot, that there is, to a certain degree, we are the drivers, like me, the human who wants to experience something, is creating those experiences. While at the same time, there's a certain percentage of what we like to call destiny, but it's like what my soul has decided to experience, create, do, be before I incarnated in this human form with a certain DNA, with a certain family, certain set of circumstances, trauma, lineage, whatever it is. So it's it's still me, right? But then there's me, the human, and then there's me, the soul. So you can sort of think about it, okay, like how much of it is my choice? How much of it is like this purpose that has been given to me before I was incarnated into this human form? And that's all, things that we can think about. We can decide whether we believe in that or not. I think for me personally, I've really I think I've always been looking for that purpose. Like I've always been looking for that calling. And my background, I come from a very academic background. I went to elite schools in different countries. And when you're in that environment, you're like constantly looking around and comparing yourself with other people. And you feel sort of like that rat race of like, oh my God, like, now I have to do what all these other smart, successful people are planning to do. Like, I spent even a year in the UK studying at one of the top schools, and then everybody's like, oh, I'm going to end up in a city and do banking and consulting and law and da-da-da. And then like your head is full of this. So like me too, I was sort of very tempted by the idea of being very successful and have money and all that. But at the same time, there was always this nagging feeling of like, I have these gifts and these passions, and I want to, travel the world, and I love learning languages, and like maybe like how do I, like you just keep being drawn to things that you love, and so you sort of question like, what's my purpose, or how can I combine different things in a way that it's truly uniquely mine, and that who I am sort of shines through. And I've really sat with that question, and especially these past 4 years, as I've been on this journey of spiritual healing, personal development, and trauma healing, and just really exploring what there is to life and what there is to myself. I've really been looking for purpose a lot, and more I started feeling like exactly what you were saying. Like I should start a sort of a spiritual business, healing business, be a coach, facilitator, I'm a certified breathwork instructor, and like all these different things that I could combine to help people. And sort of what one of your people in the group said, I think her name was also Claire,
Yeah.
help other people heal the things that we've learned how to heal, right?
Yeah.
Because once we learn how to overcome a certain obstacle, we're very good at teaching that to other people because we know exactly what they're going through. And perhaps you could look at that like that's all of our purposes. Like you learn something and then you help others learn that,
Exactly.
and then you move on. Maybe then you learn the next thing, and maybe then you elevate and learn people who are further along, teach people who are further along. But so for me, and this is a great reminder for myself as well, because I'm really at a stage in my life when I'm really actively looking for that sort of expression of that purpose into doing. And we've talked about this, obviously, as I've come on here before with you, Mark, about my recent, it was in October last year when I went and done plant medicine. Yeah. And it was very specifically, it was sort of my biggest question for the medicine. I asked to be shown with clarity what my purpose was in this lifetime and how I could best embody it, express it, and act on it in this lifetime, and like what's the next step, sort of thing. And it was on the last day, or it sort of came through throughout the week, because I was there for a while. What came through was that my only purpose in this lifetime was to pursue wholeheartedly my own joy, pleasure, and freedom.
Right.
I think we've talked about this. And then, as I do that, as I fully embody that, it is also part of my purpose to teach other people that they should do that and how to do that, and that it's their birthright to do that.
Yeah.
And that it's a choice to choose pleasure, freedom, love, connection. And, but like in order for me to truly teach that to people, my first sort of task is to embody that unapologetically and explore what that would mean for myself. And so, but then I forget that, right? Or sometimes, and then I just like sit here and it's so timely. And I think I told you this topic that you chose and asked me to participate in, because I'm really at a point in my life where I'm like, okay, like I've been wanting to start a business. I know it's my calling. I know it's my purpose, or like, I'm like, I really feel called to start my own business, build my own brand, be like a solopreneur, help people and do my own thing, create content and inspire people to travel or do whatever the things are that, I feel passionate to share about. But so here I am, like I'm really at a point where like I really need to start making money, and I'm just like, what do I do and how does it look? And and then I sort of sit and I try to figure it out for my mind, and I'm like, okay, this is how you build a business, and this is what you do, and this is what other people do. And then I get so stuck because it's like my mind takes over completely, like learning all these strategies and how to do something and trying to get into like the money making mindset, because I need to survive in this planet somehow. And then my heart is just completely left out. And then I was really, my attention was called, and I heard it like for like last week, I heard it from different sources, like every single day. It was like, it's not your business, it's your life. If that's your calling, that's your purpose. It's not your business, it's your life. Like just, you live your life. Yes. You are that person. Like you just do that, and like lead from your heart. And then I really had a very hard time because I realized I was like trying to figure something out from my mind. Yeah. And where was the heart? And then I'm like, I don't even know what my heart wants. And I'm sort of like, I thought I wanted to build this business, and I held a round of women's retreats last month. And like it was very satisfying to see that I can help people. But I was just telling Mark before we went live that now I'm sort of like, I'm not even sure if this is what I want to do, because on one hand, yes. I saw how much I can help these women. But at the same time, it's like, is this truly what my heart truly wants to do? Like, is this the highest calling? Is that the highest passion? Because I believe that if we follow, I believe that our desires are given, they could say given by God or given by the divine. We have our desires for a reason. If you, they say if you desire it, it's because you can have it. And also, like, you know, if you desire, I don't know, to become some sort of a practitioner, it's because, or like create a certain product, it's because there's somebody out there who desires that product or that service. So like you can, you know, match, your desires will match. But so I was really sitting and I was like, is this actually what my heart truly desires to do? Or am I just doing it because I have tools that I know a lot of people could benefit from, and I want to help people? And now I see, because, you know, I learned these tools from my mentors and I've been watching them do that for so long, and I see how much impact they can have. So, you know, like, was it sort of automatic? Like, oh, now I've learned these skills, now I have skills, I can monetize them and help people. But is it actually what my heart wants to do? You know, and I'm sort of like, maybe it is, but maybe it isn't, right? Maybe, or maybe it's like I was back at, you know, back at university and I saw that I had a brain that was smart. I was good at learning and I could learn anything. And, you know, it's like, oh, like, it would be fun to work in a consultancy because I thrive in fast-paced environments and I know I could get there because I'm smart. So like, maybe that's what I should do. But like, actually that was, you know, like, I would not thrive in that environment. Like, I would not be happy and healthy. So I don't know. It's
the thing is, it's ongoing. As we said before we started this live, it's like, it's not like one day you've got your higher purpose and that's it, and it's going to be that way for the rest of your life. It is like all life. It's constantly in motion and changing. And, you know, at one point, you know, I thought that the kind of shamanic route was going to be my route. I knew that plant medicine wasn't my route because I could not imagine me doing that on a regular basis. It was just so overwhelming for me. But I thought maybe the shamanic healing was my path, but it just didn't feel right to me. I knew it had helped me so much, but it was a lot of ritual. There was a lot of objects needed, and you had to remember certain things. You had to be physically present with someone. And I just didn't feel like that was my path. But when I found this work through our mentors, I was like, this is it. Because like, you can do it online. You can sit with someone on the other side of the world and help them to heal and evolve. And I knew, but just felt, you have to trust that feeling, don't you? Like your heart, like you said, you have to trust the heart in terms of. But it's interesting. I found it when you start asking that question, what is my purpose? I think the universe starts to conspire to help you. And that question comes through at different times to different people. And I do think something that was really interesting you touched on, like the education system isn't really set up to help you find what your purpose is. Nobody's talking about purpose as you go through school, are they? I don't know whether that's changing now, but I think that's why, as a collective, we've kind of forgotten and lost our sense of self. Because this is the thing, I think our sense of purpose is tied up with our connection to our true self. Now, I can speak from my own journey. When I got to the age of about 33, and I felt completely lost in my life. I was doing
Jesus age, hey?
Yeah. Well, I was doing a job that I felt completely lost in. You know, I was doing like advertising, and I was like, you know what, I like advertising, but I know it's not my passion. I know there's something else that I'm supposed to be doing, or I want to help others. I want to help the world in some way. But it seems to be when we go through life, where we are guided towards school, which ultimately I don't think is focused on what our true passion is. It's focused on helping us find a job and a career and money, you know. And so we're again guided to make decisions from our mind. The mind is kind of lauded above everything else. No one's talking about making decisions from the heart when you're in school. There's no spiritual teaching at all when we go through school. And so we're all living on our heads. We're making decisions based on safety and money. Nothing wrong with money, but I mean, if we're only focused on a career that's going to make us money, and we're not making decisions from our true passions, then we end up with a life, I think, and not a lot of people end up like this in midlife, where it's like, who the hell am I? Like, what am I doing here? What is the point of this? Which can lead to like a midlife crisis or a breakdown or whatever it might be. But certainly that was the case for me, where I just felt completely lost. I went to Peru and I was like, whoa, okay, this is something new. This is opening up something for me. But it led me into this whole dark night of the soul, which I won't go into here. But on the other side of that, once I'd done enough healing work on myself, it came this question like, okay, what is my purpose? How do I actually want to help people? And there's nothing wrong if your purpose purely is to heal myself. Like I always say to people, just start there. Because for me, there's kind of levels to it. At a base level, we're all living out our purpose, which is to be a soul in human form. And ultimately, we can never be off purpose, because if you don't know what your purpose is, that's enough, really. You're here for a reason. And even if you feel like you're completely lost, confused, and have no purpose, that is part of your purpose, because you're living out the human experience. But beyond that, I would say, if that question comes, what am I doing here? What is my purpose? Then it's enough to just go, okay, my purpose is my own healing and self-realization. And if that's as far as you go with it, I think that's perfect. That's the best way we can help others and help humanity is to evolve ourselves. But beyond that, there's another layer where we can kind of go, okay, how do I now want to help other people? But I say to people, don't rush onto that level of, I want to help the external world and everybody in it until you feel really, grounded, supported, and safe.
Help
yourself. Exactly. I love what you said on our last live, which is, I think you said something along the lines of, I really want to uncover my purpose, but I know inside I'm not ready yet. And I think what a lot of people do is they go, I'm going to help, like I said earlier, I'm going to help humanity. I want to serve others. But if you haven't done that work on yourself, or you're not feeling balanced or resourced within yourself, you can actually do, I think, more harm than good, because you're coming from a place of feeling under-resourced, overwhelmed, lot of scarcity, a lot of fear in your system. So really, you've got to do that work on yourself first. And when you feel really resourced, like you're overflowing with resource, then go out and help humanity. But I think it's important not to skip that step of like working on yourself first, which I hear a lot of people doing.
You know what? It's interesting. It's again about around business, but I think, a lot of people we equate, we do that. I think we all do that. Like we equate our purpose with a career or a job title.
Yeah.
And then, like the business, then it's kind of almost like for me, it was like, it's like a very next step, because I didn't even think about businesses. I thought about finding a job. So I was like, what is my, as I was younger, I was like, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? As I was at university, and I was actually doing a master's degree then in something that actually aligned with what I was madly passionate about. And it was, Chinese foreign policy, because I had so much passion for that culture. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to end up somewhere, in the UN, like doing what I love, working with, international, maybe politics and bringing cultures together. And then I realized like I couldn't find a job that would actually correspond to my passion, or like that would actually make me feel happy. Right. So, but first there was that confusion of like my purpose, like, is it being a banker? Is it being in academia? Like first I think a lot of people do that. Like what you said about the educational system, like we're trying to find a job title. And then now it's like the next stage where it's like, it's like, again, like it has to be a career, and it's like, you want to start your own business. And it's very different, because you're not like trying to match your passion into like these prefabricated boxes that have existed for so long. Like you realize you can create something yourself, but still it's like my passion can only come through the thing. My purpose can only come through the thing that like makes me money in this world. And I think that's also like, it's of course, like ideally you would be doing that, but I think like falling into that thought, pattern, I think it can be a big trap. Because it's just you walking what you said, like you just existing in this planet, like you're living a purpose. It's about who you are and what you give out to the world. And it can be through the things that you facilitate and then you get paid for, but it can be through the conversation you have with the
exactly.
Right. And so it's really about what you shine out to the world. But sort of, if we think about, the sort of starting a business, right? And like, okay, what do I want to do? How do I want to express myself and, express my purpose in this life? I was talking to somebody from our community who's now also like very working very hard and starting her own business. And I would imagine you would have talked about this in the group, because it's so pertinent to our healing. And she said something very profound, because in the healing work that we do, we talk about different levels of healing. So there's self to self, when when you sit in your own meditation, you do your own journaling, you sit with yourself, and you sit with your feelings, and you heal. Like there's different parts of you, and you just sit in that, very present state, and you witness different parts of you, and you basically do that healing work by yourself. Then there's another layer of healing, which is self to others. So let's see, for example, Mark and I sit together and I say, hey, Mark, like something's coming up. Can you support me? Right. So it can be with a friend. It can be with your partner. It can be with your coach, with your therapist. Right. So that's one-to-one. Like there's another person witnessing us. and holding space for us. And then there is self to group, which is, you know, Mark and I, that's how we met. We participated in a group program. You sit in front of a group of people and it feels very different. Like it's one thing to open up to your coach or your therapist or your partner. And it's a whole other thing to sit in front of, you know, a group of people and be like, hey, this is what's coming up for me. I feel very vulnerable, very fragile. And there's this part of me that, you know, really needs some love. And I really actually don't want to say that in front of a group of people because it's terrifying. But if you learn to open up, like it's a whole new level of healing. And I believe we talked about it in the past because I had a very profound experience like that with a group healing session. But what this person said when I was on a phone with her the other day, but it was very profound. She said, there's a whole other layer when you start building a business and you start, you know, you want to bring your gifts to the world and show yourself, especially like you want to be a personal brand. So if you're sort of a healer or coach, like usually, you know, you need to create a name for yourself. And so she said, there's a whole other layer. It's not you to group, it's you to the world.
Right. Interesting.
And you know, and so it's a lot, right? Like when you think about it. And so of course it makes you think. It's like, who am I and who am I to the world? Like, who do I want to be to the world? And does it feel safe? Does it not feel safe? And then what I find is very tricky for me as I start to think about it, like, who do I want to be, you know, professionally? What kind of business do I want to start? What is my purpose? And how can I transmit that into concrete doing? Then it's like, who do I, you know, it's like, I feel like it's going to start to limit me, right? Like, I want to do this and that's how I'm going to word it, how I'm going to do my branding. And I find that very complicated because again, it's like my purpose could be expressed in so many different ways. And then you need to choose something, right? Like, or maybe we don't, I don't know. But I think that's sort of exploration. I think
you need to define who you're going to help. Like you need to have, because they always say, I mean, I was in entrepreneurs community. They say, if you want to help everybody, you help no one. You know, if you want to speak to everyone, you speak to no one. Like you have to define your avatar. But maybe this is going deep into the whole entrepreneur's journey. What I will say though is, I think it's natural. People on this journey of awakening, at some point, there is a desire to create something like that for yourself. Certainly, I see it a lot in our community. It's like, okay, done this level of work on myself, and as you start to expand who you are, this desire to maybe create something like that for yourself. But it is a huge challenge, like to then, you know, because like you said, there's these pre-existing kind of spaces you can fit in when it comes to a job. Like, okay, I'll fit in this position in the company, and you kind of fit yourself in there. Doesn't feel quite right. I think it's hard to find something that you're really truly aligns with your passion and purpose in a company, in a job that's been created by somebody else. It's never going to be quite as aligned as if you created it for yourself. Saying that, you know, I look at my wife, who's a speech and language therapist, works with kids, and I can see that very much is her passion and her purpose. So I'm not saying she works at NHS and, you know, she loves that. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but certainly, you know, when as I've done this work on myself, I've realized that what my true passion is and my purpose is like the spiritual journey, the journey of healing and self-realization. Now, going through school, going through university, nobody is talking about that. There's no courses available for people who want to find a job in spirituality or healing. It's just nothing.
Just laughing, imagining it, you know, like you go to university and like, sure, you want to be a coach?
Exactly. You want to be a spiritual coach? Can you imagine there's a class, math, science, spirituality? There's RE, but I mean, that's obviously like religion is a kind of predefined, it's someone else's journey towards God or self-realization, isn't it? You kind of follow. But, you know, if you want to create your own path, you want to help others heal, there's nothing. And so I think that's why a lot of people on the spiritual path who've got spiritual gifts, healing gifts, feel quite lost. It's like there is nothing. No, I do work for a company, like with my mentors, and I do coaching within that business. But I mean, aside from that, there's nothing available really. And so that's why I went down this route of like graphic design, because it felt like I was creative, but ultimately I was working for businesses. I wasn't really interested in, you know, brands in financial sectors. mobile phone manufacturers or brands that made food and drinks, that kind of thing. I mean, fine, but it wasn't really aligned with my passion and purpose. And so I knew I had to create my own thing. There's nothing available.
Yeah.
And by the way, it doesn't mean that you have to like quit your job. If anyone's like this, think like I thought that at one point, I've got to quit my job and go 100% into the business. What jobs are great at is providing you the support financially for you to build this thing on the side that really is aligned with your purpose. And it may never be that you go full-time coach or full-time healer. It may be that you have this traditional job that pays your income. That's what I quite like, is the fact that I have a job that kind of pays my way, so that my business, I'm not putting everything on that. I'm not forcing it. I don't have to like get a certain amount of clients in or force anybody to sign up. It's like literally all my finances are taken care of by this job. And so I have this business that is purely about my passion and my purpose. If people want to join me and work with me, fantastic. If they don't, it doesn't matter, because it's not like I'm desperately trying to pay bills with this business. But you can do it either way. You can go 100% into the business like our mentors have done. And it's literally just like, okay, that is my passion and purpose. I'm living my passion and purpose 100% of the time. Wonderful if you want to do that. But there's nothing wrong with having a job that supports you as you build something on the side, and that the business around your purpose is like something you do in evenings or lunchtimes, like I do. I've got more time at the moment to work on it because of my job situation, but that's another story. But the important thing I think ultimately is to be making decisions from that heart-centered place. Like, drop in. How does this feel? Like, does this business feel like something that lights me up inside, or is it something I'm doing purely because I want to make money, because I'm feeling this lack and scarcity in my system? And if you're doing that, then for me, if you're making decisions from that heart-centered place, you're making decisions from alignment with your higher self, as opposed to what most people do, and I did for the first 30 years of my life, making decisions from the mind, which can be very confusing, as you said. Like you notice that when you're trying to create a business from the mind, often you can get stuck in procrastination or confusion, because there's a million different options and you just don't know which one. Anyone could be right. Whereas if you just feel into it, okay, does this business feel right? Does this business feel right? And then go in that direction and just be patient and just kind of like work away in your spare time. Then you can create something that truly feels good and is going to light you up. Now, it doesn't matter if you've got like 10, 50, 100 clients, or whether you've got no clients. It's like, this is my purpose. And as you rightly said, my purpose isn't attached to the fact of whether I've got a client or not. It's about my own self-realization and helping others self-realize. So that is every interaction I have with myself, and every interaction I have with everyone around me. My wife, my daughter, you now, my parents, the guy who delivers my post in the morning, So it's like working on myself, so that when I have those interactions with people, I can be the best version of myself. And so it's just not my, what I'm trying to say is my purpose is not tied up in my business 100%. It's like, if the business fails, I've still got my purpose.
Right.
So that's important, I think. Purpose is a state of being rather than what you're doing in your work, for example.
I think that's extremely important. And like, I have to say that it's a very important reminder for me at this point in my life, because it's like, as much as I know that and I can preach about that here, it's so easy.
Oh yeah.
To get stuck in that, and I shared earlier about, like finding out what my purpose was. So it's like, okay, well, it's all good and great that I know that, I should just follow my joy, my pleasure, my freedom. And what does that mean? Like, what do I do? It's like, what do I do? Like, what do I do in the world? Like, what is the business? How I need to sustain myself? Like, how do I make money? Like, what do I offer to the world on a consistent basis that I can, create something sustainable and make it work for myself, right? Because it's like, it doesn't have to be that way, but it just creates so much more ease and flow and allows us to live in a certain flow, right? Like in our lives, if we have, like, I don't want to say certainty, but some sort of, like knowing, like, okay, like this is what I do and this is what I'm going to continue to offer to the world. It feels good to me. I know that I'm offering something. I know I'm putting energy out. I feel expressed, and I know there's people receiving from me. So that also feels good. and I don't have to think about what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm just going to keep on doing some version of what I'm already doing and keep promising that and offering to the world. And some people are going to continue coming to me. So I know I'm going to have a supply of souls to help and also a supply of some sort of money or whatever.
Finances,
so it does make life much easier. And then, the mind just gets so involved and it's like, tell me what to do. And it's I find that I'm really like at a place right now where I find that very challenging of like, okay, like remind yourself that you already know what your purpose is. And then I guess it's really about just continuously dropping into the heart and being like, what would that mean? What would that mean for my business? What would that mean right now? If I were to pursue my pleasure, what would I do right now? What would I do today? What would I do next? What would be the next step? And I do have to tell you, like very vulnerably, like the answers are not coming. Like I'm sitting here and I'm like, what would I do right now? Or then I sit in meditation and every like few minutes something else comes, right? And it's like, I know I want to do all these things and they're completely different things, or not completely different, but it's a bunch of different things. And I know I want to do them all and I know I should do them all, but it's just not helpful, right? It's like I can't start being scattered, like trying to do 10 things at the same time, right? So it's challenging.
It is. And that's just the thing is, I hear this phrase all the time from our mentors. It's like life keeps coming. It keeps happening. It's not like you get to a point in life where it's like, I've got this massively successful business. The clients are pouring in, the money's pouring in. My relationships are great. My health's fantastic. You might get that at some point, but I mean, it's not going to last because everything in life is shifting and changing. So, I mean, I always reminded, I went to, I was in Costa Rica in January, did this retreat, ayahuasca retreat, and the facilitator at the end, he's worked with some of the great master shamans in the Shipibo tradition, which is like if anyone doesn't know, they're like the great masters when it comes to plant medicine, ayahuasca lineage that goes back thousands of years. So these guys that are doing this work, are about as enlightened as you could possibly get, really. But he said this great master shaman said to him, doesn't know, he's not enlightened, doesn't know anyone who's enlightened, doesn't know anyone who knows someone who's enlightened. So just forget about the idea of getting to this place of enlightenment and everything's perfect. He said, what the journey is about, the human experience, it's falling out of alignment and then bringing yourself back into alignment. Falling out of alignment or coming back into alignment. I think he said something more like falling over and getting back up, falling over, getting back up. What he's just saying essentially is that is what life is. And it's just about how quickly or not quickly, because I think it's important sometimes you get knocked down to stay down for a bit, not just like get up and get back into alignment. Sometimes you get knocked down in life. Like I've had a couple of experiences this year. I've got knocked down energetically and I'm like, all right, instead of just jumping back on the horse here, I'm going to literally just stay in this feeling of just like sadness or depression or overwhelm. And when I'm do the healing work of myself, and when I feel that shift, okay, now let me get back on the horse and start promoting the business, doing the lives, writing posts or whatever it is. It's like, but I know that even though at the moment I feel fairly in alignment, although I've still got obviously challenges with the business, as everybody does who's an entrepreneur and has a business. I know that there's another challenge coming at some point. So that's why it's constantly like, okay, focus on myself, focus on my own healing, focus on my own alignment every day, doing the minis that we do, meditating, eating well, exercising, because I know that at some point life's going to hit again and I'm going to be tested. But because that is how evolution happens. If life was just like this cakewalk where we had no challenges, we wouldn't grow and evolve. I don't know about you, Claire, but the times when I've been really challenged and tested is times where I've evolved most. So it's always a challenge. Anyone who's listening to this, I'm sure can relate. There's no point we get to where all the challenges stop and we're on easy street. Our mentors have been doing this work for a decade and more and have built this amazing coaching business. They have months where nothing's happening. They have times where the clients dry up and they're down to, the last few thousand in the bank. It's like, no matter who you are, no matter how much work you've done, you are going to be challenged, especially as an entrepreneur. Like it's not an easy path.
I do have a lot to say to that. I really do feel like I am in a black hole at this point in my life. And I've been profoundly staring at that concept of who am I? And there's some, and the ego is freaked out by that question, or like by that sort of realization that it might change, or that, I've educated the world around me that I am someone or something, and now that's about to change. And it's essentially like, by the black hole, how I understand it, it's like a death and rebirth process, and it's like an ego death, right? And so the ego is going to do anything it possibly can to stay alive. And so just to give a little bit of context, right? Like, if anybody's watched me be on here before, like, yeah, like I do travel a lot. I spent half of my life, the past 15 years, traveling, moving to different countries. For the past, I don't know, 11 years, I've moved from country to country. I've only spent 2 years in one place once, and then maybe once I spent 12 months somewhere. And then, like, for the rest of that decade, I've just been genuinely just like moving, constantly. And the interesting thing is that I started traveling when I was 16 and I had no money whatsoever. And I would always figure it out. So like I would, like hitchhike, or like couch surf, or stay with friends of friends, and like, like do an odd job, or like volunteer. And it was so fun, right? And I had so many different adventures and experiences and encounters, and the most magical serendipitous things would happen to me. Like I would be there, and then I would like meet this person that, otherwise I would have never had met if I just booked a flight and then booked a hotel and did my own thing, if I had the money for it, right? And if I didn't try to like find the most creative money saving way. And so I've lived that life for pretty much, more than all of my adult life, like really from my teenage years. And so I know this is what I do. This is who I am. Everybody knows me for it. Everybody knows me from being the language person, from being the travel person, for constantly being on the move and doing all these odd, fun, random, amazing things. And I know how to do that so much. And I, like, it's my magic. All this magic happens when I do that. But I've grown so tired of that. And I decided, I want to have money, and I want to, because when you have money, you feel better. You can help more people, right? Like you can start building a life for yourself. You can expand when you have more stability. Also, you have more energy to create things, and then you can, help people and all these things, right? So both for me and both for the world, I know going to benefit if I have more stability, and if I can take care of myself, and if I have more resources. But so now it's like, who would I even be? Like where would Claire be? Like, everything I've known myself to be, and people who have been watching me on social media or met me or know me, they're like, they know me as that. And then if I stop traveling, if I stop being broke, if I stop doing all these random things, if I get completely bored and never travel again, and now also like I don't feel like learning any more languages, and I've been doing that my entire life, right? So it's like, who am I? Like how, and it's so threatening for the ego, and it's so necessary. Like it's like what you said there, right? That when you're in these dark places where you just fell and nothing's happening and you can't take action, because it's like, when the caterpillar becomes the butterfly, there's a period, there's nothing, there's just like there's nothing there. And so when you're in that goo, when you're in that black hole, like in the process of the ego death, you can't do anything because you don't know who you are. You're not anymore what you used to be, but you're not quite yet what you're becoming. So it's just this like who am I? How do I define myself? And it's so difficult not to define yourself, because the world is constantly trying to understand who are you, right? And then you want to, go out there and help people and tell them how you can help them, like define, this is my business, or this is my title, or this is what I do. And you need all these words and all these labels, and you just, it's very interesting. It's really challenging, but I would really say that, as difficult as it is, and as much as I feel like I don't want to be in this place and I want to have it figured out, because I kind of know where I'm going, but I don't know where I'm going. So it's like, just stand up already and start going, because you've been rolling on the floor for too long and you're not helping anyone, and it's not helping you. But you're right with what you said there, that sometimes we just need to stay on the floor, when we've fallen for a bit, and just roll around in it a little bit, and take the time to really allow ourselves to stand up with wings, right?
Yes. Because I love what you said there about the caterpillar. That's just the visual that came to me as you were talking there. I was on a call last night in a group, and this came up. It's like the journey of evolution. It's not like you're the caterpillar, as you rightly said, you go into the chrysalis, is it? And then there's a period there where you just dissolve into mush, basically. And that's like the dark night of the soul. And then you come out and your wings open and butterfly and everything's perfect. But then, yes, you go through that. But then what happens? You go back into the chrysalis again at some point, and you turn into mush again. And then you turn into butterfly again. Then you go back in again. You turn it. So this is the journey of awakening, really, isn't it? It's this constant.
If you're willing to, right? So it's some people do, and some people never do. Some people spend their whole life being a caterpillar, right?
You can just live on your sofa watching Netflix or whatever where you want and avoid that. I do think at some point life is going to push you. It may be that there's some like physical illness that besets you, and it's going to push you to evolve life at some point. But it may be that if you just ignore that, then you take the ultimate journey, which is death itself. But I mean, I would say that what's happening is, like you said, it's like this ego, because what I don't think does change is the true you, which is like this awareness that's in the background, just kind of witnessing lovingly the whole experience. But of course, the journey is this kind of remembering and forgetting. You fall asleep into the ego, and then you remember who you are, and you fall asleep into the ego, and you remember who you are. It's the ego, or the human self that dissolves and then is reborn, and then expands, and then dissolves and reborn as expand. But the real you, I think, is in the background witnessing the whole thing. But that's not to bypass the human experience. It's still incredibly painful and difficult and confusing and frightening, when you go through this stuff, but you can find that seat of awareness and just go, okay, I'm gonna feel, just witness the pain, the depression, the sadness, whatever's going on, and just fully go into it. But the difference then, as we know, is to go into it with support. Like going into a dark night of the soul without any support really can be a very dangerous thing, and some people obviously don't make it out of that. So what I've realized is really important to have people with you when you go into that. And I've said it before, but every evening I make it part of my routine to ask for support. I go into our community and I say, only got 15 minutes. Whether I've had a good day, a terrible day, or an average day, I do that, and I sit with a group of people, and we all feel for our systems, and I can feel my system resourcing itself, like recharging itself from the collective field that we create. Sometimes I come out of it feeling wonderful and balanced. Sometimes I come out of it like I'm still halfway through a process of some kind, and I need to sit with that. But I mean, it's so important to have that regular energetic hygiene practice of just constantly kind of like feeling through what's happening and resourcing yourself. Because if you don't do that, the energy will just build up and up and up. And at some point it needs to go somewhere, which leads to people to like breakdowns and panic attacks and just generally, breaking down in some way. So it's really important as you go through these rebirths that you have that support as you go through it, and you're able to resource yourself so that you're not kind of, it's constantly backing up and it leads to some kind of overwhelm or breakdown at some point. That's been key for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's even just on a self-to-self level, if you can, right? If you are at that point of your evolution journey where you see your own drama, your own mind chatter, your own doomsday when it comes and whatnot, it's sort of reminding yourself, like, okay, who am I? Why am I here? What do I believe? Where do I want to go? What am I committed to? No matter how tough it gets, right? So, and sometimes we completely forget. Like it happened to me, I forgot. Like I was like, oh my God, I've been trying to figure this thing out for my mind. It's not going anywhere. It's not helpful,
we all
right?
have blind spots. Yeah.
And the ego and the mind can be so tricky because it is about my purpose, because it is something that, when I do it, I would want to do it from the heart, like it's like my soul's desire. It's not like that thing that I learned at school and that my mind would have wanted to do. It's the thing that I learned that corresponds to my soul, my purpose, my heart, my intuition, all that, right? So it's like, and then you're tricked because you're like, of course this is coming from the heart, right? But then I sit here and it's like my mind is turning. It's like, okay, I'm going to start this business. How is it, and you forget that actually you wanted to help people. And now you're like sitting here and you're like, how do I make the money? How do I get the clients? How do I market myself? And it's right. And it's
well, that's important as well. The doing is important, but I would say like the vast majority of my work on my business is me sat in meditation a lot of the time, because whenever I feel like, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed here, or I'm feeling scarcity and lack, it's like instead of doing from that energy, which is just going to create more of it, my instant reaction now is, okay, I'm going to sit with this and just sit with all of this kind of like doubt and confusion and sadness or whatever's there. The majority of the work I do on the business is internal, I would say. But then again, in the past, I've done that work of setting up the physical. I said this, we did a live last week with Tommy, an entrepreneur. We talked, you do have to do some physical doing work to create the channel for the energy to come to you, the energetic exchange of money, and that's important. There's nothing wrong with earning money. As you rightly said earlier, it's your way of, the more money you have, the more potential you have to help yourself and help others. So it's a great thing, money. So there is some work initially in setting that up, that energetic channel. The amazing thing about the time we're living in is you don't have to create an actual bricks and mortar business. You can have a social media account and help people. You can do it via Zoom or Facebook, whatever you want to do. That's the amazing time we're living in. So there is some work initially, some doing work initially, but beyond that, a lot of the work I do is the being work. It's literally sitting with myself and feeling through the discomfort. Absolutely.
I think that's really one of the most important points, right? And so that's really, and that's where I'm at. That's where I have been. It's like I've been consuming so much content and like, like the how to, figure it out, find the wording, like find what it is that you exactly want to execute and how to set up that. And then, then my mind gets so overwhelmed. So it's like, okay, now I'm overwhelmed, like I'm oversaturated. So now maybe working on my business just looks like I'm not working on it at all, right?
Yes.
And then the mind starts judging me. That's why it's like I'm just like judging myself so much. It's like, you haven't been doing anything, and now you just feel overwhelmed and you're not doing anything again. Like, how are you doing anything? How are you working on it? But it's like you need to actually sit with it and digest the energy and reconnect with that heart, with that purpose, and ask yourself, if I follow this advice, does that correspond to my passion, my purpose, my intuition, my joy, whatever I want to commit to, right? Whatever I have decided to commit to in my life, and in maybe my business, if I think that that's an expression of my purpose. So is that how I choose to do it? Is that how I feel good about it, right? So it's I think really the question around this topic is like, on one hand, yes, finding your purpose, like what it is, or what really lights your soul on fire, or what you're committed to. And for me, that's something super vague, like just follow your pleasure, whatever that means, right? Yes. And then you need to answer that question for yourself, like, what does that mean to me, or how do I want to do it? And but really, like, be honest with yourself, like, is this really how you want to do it? If it's like a business plan or a job title or whatever, like, is this truly what that thing means to you? And maybe it is. And then, maybe it's not going to be that forever and ever. And maybe it's not the only thing. How you do that, right? So it's always like, if you do get to an answer, then I would say living wholefully is, not just with your career, but every day, like however you interact with people and show up in the world. Yes. You sort of ask yourself, or if you're confused or lost, or even if like you want to go on holidays and part of you wants to go, part of you doesn't want to go because money or whatever, then like, what would that person who lives that purpose, in my case, for example, if it's pleasure and freedom, like, what, does that feel like pleasure and freedom to me? Then if yes, then I have to go because I made a commitment, right? And like, sometimes that commitment is hard too, because it's like, I should be making money, but it's like you made a commitment to pleasure and freedom. So like, if this truly, truly, truly calls you, like it feels like a lot of pleasure and a lot of freedom, then if you want to explore what being that for the world, embodying those values for the world means and looks like, then you get to go. Then you actually, like, that's what you do. And it's not always easy when we have all these ideas of like purpose. I need to like do things for other people, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because like I said at the start, if your purpose doesn't involve yourself, doesn't include yourself, it's not complete. And like I said, hard to put a percentage on it, but the vast majority of my purpose is on me. I always say the best thing I can do for humanity is to continue work on myself. And just so happens, the amazing thing about this work is that you'll know this as well, Claire, as I sit with others and help and coach others, then I benefit from that. It's actually when we sit in an energetic field together and in a mini, then we both benefit. So that's the amazing thing about this work. That's why I love it, is because as I'm helping others, I'm also helping myself as well. So there's kind of like that dual effect to it. But it's always unfolding. There's always challenges. I go through peaks and troughs. I feel lost at times with my own purpose, and have to remind myself, if the business is not going as I'd like it to, and the clients are maybe not coming through, still, I can, as you said, I can still live out my purpose by how I treat myself, how I interact with my wife and daughter, how I interact with my friends and family. So it has to be a state of being rather than what you're doing. It has to include every interaction you have with yourself and the world around you. That for me is a true purpose. But it's a journey. It really is a journey, and it's unfolding all the time and changing all the time. Beautiful. I love that, Claire. And thank you so much for your vulnerability as well. It's so easy to come on here as a coach or healer and say, yeah, I've got it all worked out. And what I always find the most inspiring people are the ones who are raw and vulnerable, and not just come on and go, this is how you should do it, or this, I've got my life's perfect, and I don't got all the answers. It's important to come on and say, I'm a human being. I haven't got it all figured out. I'm being constantly challenged. It's difficult, I know. And but the people that are able to be vulnerable, I think, are the strongest people, and the people that can really connect with and inspire people. So I really appreciate that about you, Claire.
Thank you, Mark. It's always pleasure. Always a pleasure.
I love it. The time flies by when we chat. So we're coming up to an hour now. Thank you so much for joining, Claire. I'll wrap up here. I'll let you crack on with your day and your purpose.
Thank you, Mark. Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Bye for now.